The first thing Chisom felt was cold. Not the soft, gentle cold of an air-conditioned bedroom. Not the kind that wraps around your body like a blanket when you fall asleep beside a window. This cold was different. It bit into her skin like a warning, like something was terribly, irreversibly wrong. She did not open her eyes immediately. Her mind tried to catch itself, tried to find the familiar textures of home, the slight squeak of her mattress spring, the smell of the incense she burnt every night, the faint hum of her fan. None of those things came. What came instead was the smell of expensive perfume, clean linen, and something metallic that she could not name. She opened her eyes slowly. The ceiling above her was unfamiliar. Too white, too high, too clean. There was a chandelier, small but clearly expensive, catching light from behind heavily draped curtains, the kind of curtains you find in 5-star hotels, gold-edged, floor-length, silent. Her head pounded like drums at a festival, the kind of pounding that started behind the eyes and spread its fingers across the skull. She turned slightly to ease the dizziness and froze. A man was lying beside her. Her heart did not just stop, it collapsed. She yanked backwards so fast that she nearly fell off the bed, clutching the white hotel bedsheet to her chest, pressing it against herself like armor. Her breath shattered. Her legs tangled in the sheets. Her mouth opened and the scream that came out was barely human. "Who are you? Who are you?" The man startled awake. He was mid-30s, dressed from the waist up, his tie loosened, his shirt half unbuttoned. He looked just as disoriented. His eyes scanned the room with the confusion of someone waking from a nightmare that had not ended yet. "My head," he muttered, pressing his palm to his forehead. Where am I?" "Don't come near me." Chisom scrambled off the bed entirely, her bare feet hitting the cold marble floor. "What is this? What did you do to me?" I don't even know you." "Then how did I?" Her voice cracked. She stopped. And in that terrible silence, the most devastating realization of her life came crashing down on her. Today was her wedding day. In 7 hours, she was supposed to be standing at the altar of Elevation Church Lekki in a pearl white lace gown. Her bridesmaids were supposed to be arriving. The makeup artist had been scheduled for 7 a.m. Her father, God rest his soul, was not alive to walk her down the aisle, but she had planned to carry his photograph in her bouquet. She had spent 6 months of her life building this day, brick by brick, prayer by prayer, dream by dream. And she was waking up in a hotel room she did not recognize, beside a man whose name she did not know. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Her hands shook so badly that she could barely unlock her phone. When she finally managed it, the screen hit her like a slap. 17 missed calls, all from Emeka Okafor, her fiancé, the man she loved, the man she was going to marry today. The timestamp told a story she could not stomach. He had been calling since midnight, then 2 a.m., then 4, then 5:30, then 6, then 6:15, then 6:22, each one unanswered, each one going into silence while she lay unconscious in a room she had never entered willingly. She was still staring at the screen when the door burst open. Emeka Okafor stood in the doorway. He was already dressed for the wedding. His agbada was immaculate, deep navy blue with gold threading, pressed to perfection. He must have been the kind of man who ironed his wedding clothes himself, slowly, carefully, because he was meticulous about the things that mattered. His shoes were polished. His cap was in his hand. Behind him stood Ngozi Adeyemi, Chisom's best friend of 11 years, her chief bridesmaid, the woman who had planned her bridal shower, who had held her hand through every hard thing. Ngozi stood with one hand over her mouth, her eyes wide, her whole body performing shock. And beside Ngozi stood Chuka, Emeka's younger brother, who looked at the floor and did not raise his eyes. Time stopped. Nobody spoke. The only sound in the room was Chisom's breathing. Emeka's eyes moved, slowly, deliberately, from Chisom standing barefoot and clutching the bedsheet against her chest, across the disheveled bed, to the stranger sitting up on the other side, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Something happened in Emeka's face in that moment. Something irreversible. You could watch a man's faith die in real time if you knew what to look for. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It is quiet. The jaw tightens imperceptibly. The eyes lose their warmth by 1 degree. The shoulders drop by a fraction of an inch. And then it is gone. All of it. The trust, the tenderness, the certainty. All of it gone like smoke through an open window. Emeka. Chisom moved towards him immediately, nearly tripping. Please, please listen to me. I don't know how I got here. I swear on everything I love, I don't know how this happened. I would never. Stop. His voice was calm. That calmness was the most frightening thing about it. If he had shouted, she could have matched him. If he had broken down, she could have held him. But this stillness, this was a man who had already decided. I don't need an explanation. Emeka, look at me. Her voice cracked open like a wound. Tears ran freely down her face. She didn't even feel them falling. Do you hear yourself? Do you think I would do this today of all days? Today, Emeka, I planned this wedding. I prayed for this wedding. I was the one who was counting down. You know me. I thought I knew you. Those words were quiet, and they destroyed her more thoroughly than any shout could have. Ngozi made a soft sound behind him, a small gasp, the kind of sound that said, I can't believe this, that said, poor Emeka, that said, look at what she has done, the kind of sound designed to be heard. Chuka still did not look up. Emeka's eyes met hers fully finally. I am standing in a hotel room on our wedding morning, looking at evidence I didn't go looking for. What exactly am I supposed to trust? Silence. I am calling off the wedding. No, her voice broke completely. No, Emeka, please. It is done. He turned, he walked out. Ngozi cast one last look at Chisom, an unreadable look, a strange and quick one, before following him. Chuka lingered a half-second longer, something uncomfortable on his face, then left. The door closed, and Chisom stood in a hotel room she had never booked, wearing clothes she did not remember putting on, in a city that had just become foreign to her. Her life had ended in one moment she could not explain. Chisom sat on the floor of her small apartment, not on the chair, not on the bed, on the floor, with her back against the wardrobe door, her knees pulled to her chest, still in yesterday's clothes. Her shoes were still on. She had been sitting like this for 3 hours without moving. Her wedding dress hung beside her, white and silent and cruel. She had picked it up from the shop 2 weeks ago. She had cried when she put it on for the final fitting. Not sad tears, the other kind, the kind that come when something is so beautiful and so right that your body does not know what else to do with the feeling. The seamstress had laughed and hugged her. You will be a beautiful bride. You will make him cry when he sees you. She stared at it now and felt nothing. She tried to remember. Last night. There was laughter, she was certain of that. There was music, one of the Afrobeats playlists Ngozi had made specifically for the small pre-wedding gathering, a private celebration at Ngozi's house. Just a small circle of their closest friends. No alcohol except champagne. Everyone was careful. Nobody wanted Chisom to be hungover on her wedding day. She remembered arriving. She remembered the decorations, fairy lights strung across the ceiling, photographs of her and Emeka projected on the living room wall. the smell of pepper soup and jollof. She remembered laughter. She remembered Ngozi pressing a glass into her hand. Then, nothing. A blank wall. Not sleep nothing, not the gentle fade out of someone who had too much to drink and went to bed at midnight. A hard, abrupt nothing. Like a film reel that had been cut with scissors. Like someone had taken the last 4 hours of her night and simply removed them. She called Ngozi. 3 rings. Chisom. Ngozi's voice was low, careful, deliberately soft. The voice of someone performing grief. Where did you go last night? A pause, brief, almost imperceptible. I had a family issue. My aunt called. I had to step out for a bit. For how long? Maybe 20 minutes, something like that. 20 minutes. Chisom's voice sharpened. Not shouting, something more dangerous than shouting. You were gone for 20 minutes, and in that time, I was moved from your house to a hotel on the island, placed in a room with a man whose name I don't know, and my wedding was destroyed. 20 minutes was enough for all of that to happen. Chisom, I am also confused. I came back and you were gone, and I assumed you had gone home early. You assumed. The words fell flat. You did not call me. I texted. Show me the text. Silence. Long silence. The kind of silence that answers everything. Ngozi, Chisom's voice had gone very quiet now, very still. Did you see me leave? No. Did you see anyone near my drink? Chisom, answer the question. No. The call ended. Chisom set the phone down on the floor beside her. She stared at the wedding dress for a long time. Something was wrong. Not wrong the way accidents are wrong. Not wrong the way coincidences are wrong. Wrong the way a key fits a lock. Deliberate, precise, engineered. Chisom pressed her fists against her eyes. She had been drugged. She was certain of it now. Not drunk, drugged. The blank wall was not alcohol. Alcohol leaves traces. Alcohol leaves a fading gradient of memory before the blackout. This was surgical. This was intentional. And whoever had done it had been inside that room with her all evening. By afternoon, the story grew legs. By evening, it had wings. By the following morning, it had a name, a plot line, and 17 different versions. And every version made Chisom smaller and uglier than the last. Did you hear? She was caught in a hotel with another man on the morning of her own wedding. Kai, these women of nowadays. And the man is not even somebody, just a random. Emeka had to walk in and see it himself. Imagine. I always said there was something about that girl. Orphan children, you never truly know what they carry. Chisom was walking through the market 2 days later when she heard her own name dragging through a conversation 3 stalls away. She stopped. The market women did not even lower their voices. They watched her hear it and they kept talking. She stood still. She had 2 options in that moment. She could fall or she could harden. She chose the second. She went home that night and found a message from her uncle, the only family she had left, the man who raised her after her parents died, the man she had reserved a front row seat for at the ceremony. This disgrace. Don't call my house. Don't come my compound. You have finished me. Chisom read it 3 times. Then she deleted it. Not because it didn't hurt. It hurt in the way that the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally can hurt you. Deeply, permanently, in the places you thought were protected. But she had spent 27 years surviving things she was not supposed to survive. She was not going to allow someone else's lie finish what grief had not been able to. She picked up her phone. She searched for a name, Barrister Obiageli Onkonko, women's rights lawyer, criminal practice, reputation for not losing. She dialed. I need help, she said when the line connected. Someone framed me on my wedding morning, and I need to prove it. Barrister Okonko was the kind of woman who wore no jewelry except stud earrings and kept her office so tidy it felt like a statement. She sat across from Chisom with a yellow legal pad, a pen, and eyes that missed nothing. She listened to the entire story without interrupting.
When Chisom finished, Barrister Okonkwo set down her pen. They refused to release the CCTV footage to you directly. The hotel manager said only law enforcement or a court order could access it. Then we will make them release it. I will have the request filed by morning. Under the circumstances, potential drugging, potential trafficking, we have grounds for a preservation order. They cannot erase or overwrite that footage while legal proceedings are pending. It took 2 days. 2 days of Chisom sitting in the silence of her apartment, fielding calls she declined, deleting messages she did not read, eating rice she did not taste, sleeping in increments that lasted 40 minutes before her body jolted her awake in fear. Then Barrister Okonkwo called. Come, bring nothing, just yourself. The viewing room was small, a table, 3 chairs, a laptop, a hotel security manager with the expression of a man who very much wished he was somewhere else. Chisom sat down. Her palms were damp. The footage began. Time-stamped 8:47 p.m., the hotel lobby. Unremarkable. Staff moving, guests arriving, the ordinary ballet of a Lagos hotel on a Friday night. Chisom fast-forwarded through it, scanning, searching. Then, there she was, Chisom Adeze Eze, in her yellow celebration dress, laughing in the lobby. The timestamp read 10:14 p.m. She was animated, gesturing, clearly happy. She moved across the frame easily, confidently, the walk of a woman who was exactly where she wanted to be, feeling exactly what she wanted to feel. So she had been here willingly at 10:14 p.m., or at least she had believed she was willing. Whatever had been put into her drink had not yet taken full effect. Barrister Okonkwo pointed to a different angle. This one, 1 hour later. The timestamp read 11:22 p.m. Chisom appeared again, but this time something was catastrophically wrong. Her walk had gone. Her posture had collapsed. She moved like a woman made of water, her legs uncertain beneath her, her head tilted forward, completely dependent on the person beside her. Zoom, Chisom whispered. The security manager zoomed.
The person beside Chisom. The person with an arm around her waist, guiding her, supporting her full weight, steering her toward the elevator, was a woman. A woman in a plum-colored blouse. A woman whose face, when the camera caught it for exactly 1 second from the lobby angle, was completely, utterly familiar. The air left Chisom's body. Ngozi. Barrister Okonkwo's voice was calm. Keep watching. The footage cut to a hallway camera. Floor 7. Ngozi guided Chisom, barely conscious, barely walking, down the corridor. A hotel staff member appeared. There was a brief exchange. Something passed between them. Then the staff member opened a door and Ngozi helped Chisom inside. Room 714. A final clip. Lobby footage again. Earlier, 9:50 p.m., before Chisom's second appearance, a man entered the lobby and approached the front desk. He received a key card. He went up. The security manager pulled up his check-in record. The name on the booking read Tobena Maduka. Barrister Okonkwo turned to Chisom slowly. He checked in alone. His own room booking. He was already inside and unconscious, likely drugged himself when she brought you in. Chisom covered her mouth. Her whole body was shaking. Which means, Barrister Okonkwo continued carefully, Ngozi arranged for 2 people to be in the same room. One was you, one was a man who would not remember how he got there either. And she arranged for the right person to arrive at the right time and see exactly what she wanted him to see. The tears came. Chisom did not try to stop them. This was planned. Yes, said Barrister Okonkwo simply. This was not a crime of passion. This was a crime of patience. Ngozi Adeyemi did not go quietly. She arrived at the meeting that Barrister Okonkwo had organized with the confidence of a woman who believed she had covered every track. She walked into that room wearing the same expression she had worn in the hotel doorway.
careful concern, performed sorrow, the practiced stillness of someone who had rehearsed this moment. She sat down. She looked at Chisom. She looked at Emeka, who was sitting in the far corner with his hands clasped between his knees, his face unreadable. She looked at the laptop. She looked at Barrister Okongwo, and then the footage played. Ngozi's face changed on the screen at precisely 11:22 p.m. Ngozi's face in the room changed at exactly the same moment. The performance cracked. Not all at once, not dramatically, not in a single collapse. It cracked the way old paint cracks, line by line, from the inside out, the surface holding even as everything beneath it gave way. When the footage ended, the silence was the kind that has weight. Chisom asked, "Why?" She was not shouting. She had no energy left for volume. Her voice was quiet, almost gentle, the voice of someone asking a question they already know will not satisfy them. Ngozi said nothing. "Why?" Chisom asked again. And then something happened in Ngozi's face. The last of the performance dissolved. What replaced it was not shame, not guilt, not remorse. What replaced it was something rawer and uglier and more honest than any of those things. It was bitterness. Old, deep, accumulated bitterness. The kind that has been nursing itself in silence for years. She laughed. A single short, dry sound, like a twig snapping underfoot. "Because you don't deserve him." The room went very still. I loved Emeka first. Her voice was even, factual, like she was presenting evidence in her own defense. I was there long before you entered his life, long before you even knew his name. I was the one who sat with him through his mother's illness. I was the one who drove him to the hospital at 2 a.m. when his father collapsed. I was the one who stayed. And he chose me, Chisom said quietly, not triumphantly, just truthfully. Something flashed in Ongoyi's eyes. "He chose you," she repeated. "He always chose you, even when I was standing right there, even when I was doing everything right. You walked in with your big eyes and your quiet voice and your orphan story, and somehow you are more magnetic than 11 years of loyalty. So you decided to destroy me. I decided to take what should have been mine. You drugged me." Chisom's voice did not shake. It did not rise. It simply stated the fact, the way you state something that is already permanent, already done. Ngozi said nothing. "Answer her," Barrister Okonkwo said quietly. The silence stretched. "Yes." One word, dropped like a stone into water. "And Tobena," Chisom pressed, "what did he do to deserve to be used like that?" "He was convenient." The words were flat. "He owed money to someone who owed something to me. He was told he was coming to a private party. His drink was handled before he arrived. He never knew anything." Emeka made a sound in the corner. Not a word, just a sound. Low, involuntary. The sound of a man absorbing something he cannot entirely process. Chisom turned to him. She had been avoiding looking at him directly since he walked in. Now she let herself look. He looked terrible. Not terrible the way guilty people look. Terrible the way people look when they have done something irreversible and cannot undo it and know it. "You didn't ask me one question," Chisom said. He opened his mouth. "Not one." Chisom continued. "I begged you. I stood barefoot in a hotel room and I begged you to look at me, to look at my face and tell me what you saw. And you removed my hands from you like I was a stranger and you walked out." "Chisom, I am not angry at you for being hurt." Chisom's voice remained steady. "I understand being hurt. What I cannot forgive is that you knew me. 7 years, Emeka, 7 years of who I am. And in the space of 30 seconds, you decided the evidence you saw with your eyes was more real than everything you knew with your heart." He had no answer for that. Ngozi was taken away. Not loudly, not dramatically. Barrister Okonkwo had arranged for officers to be present outside, and when the door opened, Ngozi walked out between them with her chin high and her hands in front of her, and something that looked finally like fear beginning to settle behind her. At the door, she stopped. She turned back once and looked at Chisom. Chisom looked back at her. Nothing was said. Everything was said. Weeks later, the case was in the courts. Tobena had come forward voluntarily once he understood what had been done to him. The hotel staff member who had accepted payment had given a statement. The toxicology report confirmed rohypnol in Chisom's blood work, a sample taken on the morning of the incident by a doctor that Barrister Okonkwo had sent to her apartment with foresight Chisom had not known to be grateful for until now. The story that had once run through the streets of Lagos like wildfire began slowly to run in the other direction. People called to apologize. Some called twice. Her uncle sent a message. She read it. She did not reply. Not yet. Chisom stood in front of the mirror in her bedroom. She had put the wedding dress away. Not thrown it out, just away, in a bag, in the top of the wardrobe, where things go when you are not ready to decide what they mean yet. She was wearing a simple blue dress. Her hair was natural, pulled back. She wore no jewelry except the small silver cross she had worn every day since she was 16, the one that belonged to her mother. She looked at herself for a long time. She did not look like a woman who had been destroyed. She looked like a woman who had been through a fire and come out with all the unnecessary parts burned away. Something cleaner, something harder, something more honestly herself than she had been before. Her phone rang. She looked down at the screen. Emeka. She had been expecting this call for days. She had rehearsed what she would say. She had imagined multiple versions of the conversation. In some versions, she had cried. In others, she had been cold. In the version she visited most often in the middle of the night, she had said everything she needed to say, and he had said everything she needed to hear, and somehow, impossibly, something was rebuilt. But that was the middle of the night. This was morning, and in the morning, she was clearer. She looked at his name on the screen. She thought about the hotel doorway. She thought about the sound of her hands being uncurled from his. She thought about walking barefoot on cold marble while the man she loved made the decision not to trust her. She thought about who she had been before that morning and who she was now, and what the distance between those two women had cost her. She declined the call. Slowly, deliberately. Not from anger, not from cruelty, but from the quiet, unshakable knowledge that some things, once broken, cannot be rebuilt. Not because the love is gone, but because trust, once it walks away, takes something essential with it when it leaves, and you cannot build a life on the memory of a thing that used to be there. She set the phone face down on the dresser. She picked up her bag. She walked to the door of her apartment and opened it. And the morning came in, warm and bright and ordinary, and full of everything that was still ahead of her. She walked out. Not broken, not defeated, changed. Permanently, completely, and entirely, terrifyingly, quietly free.